Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Isabel Miller and here are your top stories on Monday the 23rd of June. Coastal chaos. Thanet fears more violence after a weekend of antisocial behaviour across the seafront.
There were a lot of them. We thought they were going to start pushing in this direction as well because we didn't know what had caused this. We thought it was just mindless, chaos.
Housing, boat commutes and more housing. We unpack the plans for Medway's future.
We've got a sort of housing need identified with the government of around about 25,000 homes. That's a huge amount of development and it cannot take place in one particular place.
Commemorating legacy, Medway honours Windrush Day with music and community.
Without diversity, Britain wouldn't be what it is today. And I think many people forget that. Many people during the war had to migrate to places of safety.
First tonight, teenagers smashed windows, shoplifted and fought on beaches, leaving parts of Kent's coast shaken this weekend. Much of the antisocial behaviour focused on Broadstairs, where many businesses were forced to close. Kent police arrested 5 people and charged 1 teenager. They have promised the community a stronger presence. Gabriel Morris has been in Broadstairs getting the reaction.
This video has now been viewed hundreds of thousands of times online. Late last week, a large group of young people erupted into violence outside this Italian restaurant. And opposite this pub worker watched the chaos unfold. She's now worried for her own safety.
But it's been consistent, so now I'm worried every time I wait outside work, either for a lift or for the bus. There were a lot of them. We thought they were going to start pushing in this direction as well because we didn't know what had caused this. We thought it was just mindless, chaos and that sort of thing. So we were quite worried about them pushing their way in here.
But even this seafront gift shop wasn't spared, vandals smashing their window. It's not just the repair costs the owners are worried about, it's how the violence might damage the town's reputation.
Broadstairs is the jewel in the crown of the Thanet, and it's going to stop people from coming down. It really will do some damage. It's putting people off already. People are saying, we can't come back, we can't come back. And of course it's the tourists and the students alike that help bring big income to our town.
Across the district, beach fights broke out, and one local convenience store reported a spike in shoplifting, having to shut early over the weekend, losing thousands of pounds in trade.
As a business, I can say we nearly, if it's until 9 o'clock we keep open on Saturday, we're gonna do more than what we done. So it's nearly £4,000 business we lost on Saturday.
As the new week began, the parish council started assessing the impact on local businesses.
We can't accept this. What we do about it, I don't know. But we're going to get round the table and we're going to do our best. We owe it to the residents of Broadstairs, the ratepayers of Broadstairs, and most of all, we owe it to the visitors that come here and support our local businesses.
Kent police say they're still investigating, but so far they've arrested 5 people and charged 1 teen. Officers remain highly visible in the area.
We want you to take responsibility for the actions of your children. Do you know where they are? Do you know what they're doing? And if you've seen them online, what are you doing about it? Because we need to work together to solve this.
I've been speaking to some businesses today and many say they would like to see more police officers on the streets of Broadstairs. What would you say to that?
What we have done in response to this is we've uplifted our officers and we've added additional resources, and we will continue to add those additional resources and bring in whatever we need to do to improve the situation.
With teenagers finishing their GCSEs and A-levels, Broadstairs is bracing for more disruption, but authorities insist they'll crack down, determined to restore the town's picture postcard image. Gabriel Morris for KMTV in Broadstairs.
Medway Council have revealed their new plans for a Medway makeover. Today, the local authority set out their new plan for the area at a council briefing. This includes new houses, infrastructure and services like supermarkets. It could be the first local plan successfully passed for the area since 2003. Our reporter Daisy Page has all the details.
37 years old is the average age of someone able to buy a new home in Medway. Today, Medway Council held a local plan briefing, which looked at the ways Medway could be changing over the years. It included the potentials of new housing and services, and it also discussed the use of the river being used for transport. The need for housing has led to discussions of controversial developments on land in the borough, including on the Chatham Dockyards, which councillors and developers are looking at keeping its historic connection while making it an area of employment and housing.
We've got a sort of housing need identified by the government of around about 25,000 homes. That's a huge amount of development, and it cannot take place in one particular place, i.e. the Hoop Peninsula or Raynham. It has to be spread equally across the community. So we've gone for this particularly sort of split between as much of the community as we can to balance out how the development takes place. In addition to that, we really feel that regeneration of our brownfield land should take priority. So the split is 40% of our brownfield sites, so that's the whole of Medway, will take the priority of the redevelopment for housing. Then it's 30% on the rural fringe, and then it's a 30% in the rural area.
With it set to be discussed this Thursday, the opposition will be set to question the plan.
Look, we're really concerned about the local plan that the administration have announced, which will be coming to full council on Thursday. We've got lots of concerns, not only about the policy aspects of the plan, including critical parts of the plan as it relates to infrastructure, but we're also concerned about a number of broken promises that the administration have made to the people of Medway, including on the Chatham Docks that they defended whilst in opposition, and other rural parts of the authority that will see significant numbers of housing over the local plan period.
But what do residents think about the idea of housing development on the Chatham Dockyards?
Chatham Dockyards is a very historical site, so I think there is something about keeping it pure for residents to understand about the historical nature. But however, we know we are in a housing crisis, and I think if we can just make sure that maybe not all of the space is used for residential and we still have the historical element, then that's fine. I think we've got to have a balance because there is a massive need.
Well, there's already housing in Chatham Dockyard, works very well. If you're going to keep it a thriving, bustling place, I think you should have people living there as well.
The future of Medway will be discussed by the end of this week, but a decision is still far away. Daisy Page for KMTV.
Our reporter Daisy Page joins us now to tell us a little bit more. So you mentioned maybe the use of the River Medway, as we can see here. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Medway population has actually gone up 6% from 2011 to 2021. Now, that's a decade, so 6% in a decade. And it is said it's estimated to increase by 3.9% by 2040. So they're kind of planning for an increase of population here in Medway. And it said that it's the top 40% most densely populated local authority area. As we heard in my report, it was highly focused on the need for housing and the placement of this being all across Medway, not in just one place. And with houses, it comes with the need for more services, which was discussed, like supermarkets, but also more cars on the road. And one way that they've kind of talked about this might be using the River Medway. And when you kind of go to London, you can get on a boat, hop across the river, go to somewhere else. So that might be a plan that they're looking at this Thursday, is using the river. And what they described it as is getting to work on a river. How would you like to get to work by a boat?
I could do with commuting on a boat. It might be a nice view. Well, it depends on the weather, I guess. If it's a sunny day, then, well, maybe.
It's something a little bit different, other than I drive ages in the morning, so maybe something a nice, fun river tour in the morning might be quite nice. So that's something that they discussed, and they mentioned about the planning of this as a new mode of transport. But I spoke with Councillor Simon Curry to find out a little bit more about what he thinks.
But the river itself is what we're named after. It runs through our heart. and it's an incredible resource. It's hugely valuable from an environmental point of view, and we've got to do something about the water quality, which we're trying to do our best with. But equally, it's a transport corridor. It's got economic benefit, and that's one of the exciting things we can do. There's a number of piers and wharfs which we want to refurbish, and utilising the river as a corridor for transport means it takes the burden off our roads as well. So it's a win-win. And also, quite exciting with the Medway City Estate proposals, is putting a couple of bridges over there for pedestrians and cyclists to be able to walk back and forth. It'd be quite an exciting thing to do as well.
So would you say there were some common themes in the discussions?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me, and I'm not sure if it's just because I'm the climate producer, but it was actually the discussion around climate change. And the strategies that they discussed also looked at implementing things about that to try and help with climate change and the future of plans of roads and buildings around this. And if we have quick time to take a look at a SOT, we can see what Simon said about that as well.
I don't actually think we have time for the SOT, but maybe you could describe to us what they said.
No, that's fine. So he talked about, obviously, the planting of trees. Now, trees play a very important role. They've said that they've started seeing a rise in the River Medway already due to heavy rainfall and also just impacts and some things that we're seeing from the impact of climate change. They want to be planting more trees because trees play an important role of obviously sucking up water and kind of mitigating and acting as a natural defence in that as well. So they're just a few things, but maybe we can get that SOT in a bit later for you.
Absolutely. Here's to more councils looking at climate change. We'll see you right after this break.
Become a Kent Online subscriber for unlimited access to award-winning journalism from across the county. Browse the premium version of our website with no intrusive ads for uninterrupted scrolling on your desktop, mobile or tablet. Enjoy unrivaled coverage of news, sport and leisure in Kent, including content exclusive to subscribers. Read fascinating features in our in-depth section and head down memory lane by delving into our decades archive. Keep up to date with politics in Kent and Westminster and the latest on and off the field with our extensive sports coverage, including specialist Gills reporting. Enjoy weekly digital editions of all KM titles and swipe for the same page-turning experience as the newspaper. Download, share and print out the pages you want and tackle fun puzzles such as crosswords and Sudoku. Plus, unlock our extensive archive of past papers stretching back more than 10 years. Becoming a subscriber is easy. Visit kentonline.co.uk and click the subscribe tab at the top right of the screen. Choose the package that suits you with options to pay monthly or annually. Once you've signed up, check your email for a thank you message from us and details on how to get the most out of our subscription. Kent Online, news you can trust.
Hospital visits will be dramatically reduced.
And there's something about time in Imagining Autism, I call it a nowhere.
I completely adapted to being a hidden away rural homeless person. The system can't and doesn't cope with rural homelessness at all.
And I think that's a big barrier to young disabled people in terms of their aspirations and accessing science.
I think the Equiparakeet is a great symbol for what we should be doing on Mauritius, what we can do elsewhere in the world.
This is like a picture of me and my cousins when we was in Albania back to my nan's house.
Mirë, vëmë të keme me menu me menjen tonë edhe me pa momentin e dur që kur me ik edhe policisë.
The Kent Politics Show, live on KMTV. Join us every week with an array of guests.
I think the boundary changes have changed a great deal in Kent.
The Conservative administration have delivered the lowest council tax in Kent. We will continue to do that.
Discussing the things that matter most to you.
People do feel like they've been ignored by this government.
We do need something else to supplement wind and solar.
Catch the Kent Politics Show, only on KMTV.
Welcome back to Kent Tonight Live on KMTV. Now, figures reveal that the number of physical assaults by Kent pupils on school staff keeps rising. Figures obtained by Kent Online show that in the 2021 to 2022 academic year, there were 140 cases of pupil temporary or permanent exclusion for assaulting a member of teaching staff, and that rose to 300 last year. Kent County Council defended its decision to end its subsidies for youth clubs and activities, saying it remains committed to meeting the needs of vulnerable young people in Kent. Medway Council says it does not believe the figures show a significant increase in violence towards teaching staff when a rising population and pupil numbers are taken into account. Now, a couple in Elsham Village near Canterbury have described their Barratt home new build as a living nightmare. Roberta Pullen and husband Jack Bushell brought the house back in 2017. Since then, due to ongoing drainage issues, water has entered the house on 6 occasions, the most recent being June the 13th. The couple say the issues have left them with trauma and concerns about structural damage. Managing Director of Barratt, David Wilson Kent, said they are aware of some concerns surrounding the drainage systems. They said they are in contact with the homeowner and will undertake a comprehensive survey of the system. Moat, the estate agent management company, says they have been contacted. Next, 2 men have been taken to hospital following a serious crash involving a car in Newton Road in Ashford. The road was tapped off by police at 8:37 p.m. on Sunday until around midnight. A police spokesperson said that officers attended the scene alongside South East Coast Ambulance Service. A man in his 30s has been taken to a London hospital and remains in serious condition. Another man in his 20s was taken to a local hospital. 2 others who were not involved in the crash have been arrested on suspicion of perverting the course of justice. Now, 3 is the lucky number for this week's Sport Bulletin, with Kent County Rugby winning their 3rd trophy in a row and Tunbridge Angels signing a new striker famous for being the only player to score 4 hat-tricks in a row. Here's Finn with a look at our sports headline and a roundup after the weekend.
Hello there. First tonight, it's a county-wide win for us all, with Kent Rugby completing their hat-trick with a 3rd successive Bill Beaumont County Championship title under their belt. They took Yorkshire to a tight 39-32 points at Twickenham and added trophy number 6 to their total. But apparently that tight scoreline didn't reflect the whole match, which Kent dominated, with only some late points tallied from Yorkshire near the game's end. In fact, Kent were leading 23-17 at the break. The day also marked head coach and second row Tom Stradwick's last competitive game. After 35 appearances for Kent, he said, "People don't get to write their own endings. But for me, to finish my playing career at Twickenham with a bunch of very good mates and standing on the top step with the trophy above your head, it doesn't get much better." To cricket now, and Kent Spitfires beat Essex by 47 runs in Vitality Blast, with Tawanda Muyeye scoring his 1st century in the contest, out for exactly 100 as Essex were bowled out for 172. This puts the Spitfires up to 4th in the South Group ahead of a 2-week T20 break as the schedule returns to 4-day cricket. Muyeye's engine was slow to start, but he soon started hitting repeated sixes at the beginning of the 4th over. There were moments he was nearly picked off, but he returned to form again and again, even hitting 3 sixes in a row against Matt Critchley in the 12th over. In the end, it was a strong, resounding victory for the Spitfires, and the explosion of Muyeye, who's said to have his potential simmering in the background since his signing back in 2023. Over to some football news now at Maidstone United's Gallagher Stadium, where a Women's Cup final was stopped after stadium management objected to Palestine flags in the crowd. Clapton CFC and Dulwich Hamlet reserves were only 20 minutes into the London and South East Regional Women's Football League Trophy final when the game stopped. According to Clapton, a representative of Maidstone United demanded supporters took down a Palestine flag and anti-genocide banner that were being held in the Dulwich section. Both teams were offered to play behind closed doors, but Clapton, who were leading by 2-0 at this point, declined. Meanwhile, a statement released by Maidstone United in the days following the match read, "Maidstone United is a football club serving the local community. Ensuring a peaceful and safe environment for spectators in the stadium is a priority. The club does not engage in politics of any kind." An investigation was launched, and 3 weeks on, both finalists have announced they will face no further action following a decision by the London FA. The organisation says it can see supporters were displaying the flags and banners in solidarity and support, and not in a way to incite any violence or aggravation. A spokesperson for the club said the decision, while of course a relief, clearly does not make up for the fact that our players and hundreds of supporters and those of Dulwich too had their big day ruined. Some slightly different news with Tunbridge Angels, who have signed a new striker who's broken a particularly unique record. Eddie Simon previously played for Walton and Hersham FC and scored 4 consecutive hat-tricks for the Surrey side while they were in the Isthmian South Central League in the 2022 to 2023 season. In that specific campaign, he scored 43 goals and helped guide the Swans to promotion through the playoffs. Simon is said to be prolific no matter the club, scoring 30 in his second year with Walton and Hersham, then netting 40 for Kingstonian, making top goal scorer in the league, all while being a dentist. Well, for more sports news from around the county, we'll have interviews with Kent's athletes on Invicta Sport this evening, and that's all from me for now.
Now, I know you said that's all from you, but actually it's not all from you because there is just a little bit more sport that you wanted to add.
Well, there's always more sport here in Kent, whether it's Gillingham. In fact, we've been recently talking to Gary Ainsworth, obviously the new manager who's come from Shrewsbury. He's known as the rock star manager. He's got his music career and his obviously his footballing career. Many Gills fans will know him at this point, but it's what he's looking to do at the start of the season that is really interesting. So Bradley Dack, our midfielder, obviously a talisman of the club, went to Blackburn Rovers, obviously went up through the Gills system. It's being said that Ainsworth really wants Dack to become more of a leader to a lot of these younger players that they're bringing up. I believe they just signed a young forward from Bristol City, and he's looking forward to making those young players really, you know, a vital asset to the squad with these older players kind of leading the charge. Speaking of young players, we've also got some volleyball news.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So here in Kent, if you don't know, we have our National Volleyball League team. They are Invicta, Kent Invicta. And it's specifically, they have one player on a professional contract. He's Mickey Horney, I believe he's around 19, and he's actually just been accepted onto the under-22s England squad. And he's, like I said, he's the only player on a professional contract. I myself have actually seen him play. He's very, very good. I interviewed him when he was joining the under-19s team. I think he did a tournament, I believe, in Iceland. And so now he's moving on to bigger and better things. So, like I say, always more sports news.
Oh, thank you very much, Finn. How very interesting volleyball, something that I will hopefully give a try in the future myself. You never know. But you can't forget that we can look at the website to keep up to date with all the latest stories going on in Kent, and you can watch this one.
On the 8th of May, 1945, Germany officially surrendered, and after nearly 6 years of fighting, World War II came to an end. All across Kent, towns have been celebrating VE Day. And the community of Faversham has come together today to celebrate the 80th anniversary of VE Day. There's a variety of stalls and even some familiar faces walking around. Many were dressed the part for Faversham in the 40s. There was singing, dancing, and even a historical figure wandering around.
Well, it's a marvellous event, obviously. You only have to look just up this little street and there are people, all the stall holders are all appropriate, but it's the visitors that are dressed up. They're bringing back the spirit of the 40s.
Whilst remembering those who lost their lives fighting, the event also celebrated the work of the British people on the home front, and one group that stood out was the women.
They kept the nation going by knitting things, looking after children, digging in the fields, going to the factories, things that they were never allowed to do before. And I think it all brought the country together.
Over 3 million women volunteered for the Red Cross, and 6 million worked in factories. The Friends in the 40s group were helping to shine a light on some other home front efforts, including the local defence volunteers.
Yes, I think TV with Dad's Army, very comical as it is, does give a slightly false impression of how things would have been. But it was about the time when the threat of German invasion was particularly high, with Dunkirk happening as well. If things had gone the wrong way, then Britain would have lost its army effectively, and local defence volunteers would have been called upon, if needs be, to sacrifice themselves to help defend the country.
The group was made up of men aged 17 to 65, who, for a variety of reasons, were unable to fight on the front line. Up and down the streets, the spirit of the 1940s was as present today as it was 80 years ago. A brilliant atmosphere celebrating such an important time and day in British history.
But the way he likes to play is A to the bar. When he plays his football, he's the daddy of them all.
Etalie Reynolds for KMTV.
A lovely celebration there for the Victory in Europe Day. But after the break, we'll be looking more about Windrush Day, which was on Sunday, and talking about how we can honour that and remember the generation who came to Britain to rebuild after World War II. We will see you right after this break.
Become a Kent Online subscriber for unlimited access to award-winning journalism from across the county. Browse the premium version of our website with no intrusive ads for uninterrupted scrolling on your desktop, mobile or tablet. Enjoy unrivaled coverage of news, sport and leisure in Kent, including content exclusive to subscribers. Read fascinating features in our in-depth section and head down memory lane by delving into our decades archive. Keep up to date with politics in Kent and Westminster and the latest on and off the field with our extensive sports coverage, including specialist Gills reporting. Enjoy weekly digital editions of all KM titles and swipe for the same page-turning experience as the newspaper. Download, share and print out the pages you want and tackle fun puzzles such as crosswords and Sudoku. Plus, unlock our extensive archive of past papers stretching back more than 10 years. Becoming a subscriber is easy. Visit kentonline.co.uk and click the subscribe tab at the top right of the screen. Choose the package that suits you with options to pay monthly or annually. Once you've signed up, check your email for a thank you message from us and details on how to get the most out of our subscription. Kent Online, news you can trust.
Hospital visits will be dramatically reduced.
And there's something about time in Imagining Autism, I call it a nowhere.
I completely adapted to being a hidden away rural homeless person. The system can't and doesn't cope with rural homelessness at all.
And I think that's a big barrier to young disabled people in terms of their aspirations and accessing science.
I think the Equiparakeet is a great symbol for what we should be doing on Mauritius, what we can do elsewhere in the world.
This is like a picture of me and my cousins when we was in Albania back to my aunt's house.
Mirë, vëmë tek me menu me menjen tonë edhe me pa momentin e dur që kur me ik edhe policisë.
The Kent Politics Show, live on KMTV. Join us every week with an array of guests.
I think the boundary changes have changed a great deal in Kent.
The Conservative administration have delivered the lowest council tax in Kent. We will continue to do that.
Discussing the things that matter most to you.
People do feel like they've been ignored by this government.
We do need something else to supplement wind and solar.
Catch the Kent Politics Show, only on KMTV.
Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Isabel Miller and here are your top stories on Monday the 23rd of June. Coastal chaos. Thanet fears more violence after a weekend of antisocial behaviour across the seafront.
There were a lot of them. We thought they were going to start pushing in this direction as well because we didn't know what had caused this. We thought it was just mindless, chaos.
Housing, boat commutes and more housing. We unpack the plans for Medway's future.
We've got a sort of housing need identified by the government of around about 25,000 homes. That's a huge amount of development and it cannot take place in one particular place.
Commemorating legacy, Medway honours Windrush Day with music and community.
Without diversity, Britain wouldn't be what it is today. And I think many people forget that. Many people during the war had to migrate to places of safety.
Now for our top story this evening. Teenagers smashed windows, shoplifted and fought on beaches, leaving parts of Kent's coast shaken this weekend. Much of the antisocial behaviour focused on Broadstairs, where many businesses were forced to close. Kent Police arrested 5 people and charged 1 teenager. They've promised the community a stronger presence. Gabriel Morris has been to Broadstairs, getting the reaction.
This video has now been viewed hundreds of thousands of times online. Late last week, a large group of young people erupted into violence outside this Italian restaurant. And opposite this pub worker watched the chaos unfold. She's now worried for her own safety.
But it's been consistent, so now I'm worried every time I wait outside work, either for a lift or for the bus. There were a lot of them. We thought they were going to start pushing in this direction as well because we didn't know what had caused this. We thought it was just mindless, chaos and that sort of thing. So we were quite worried about them pushing their way in here.
But even this seafront gift shop wasn't spared, vandals smashing their window. It's not just the repair costs the owners are worried about, it's how the violence might damage the town's reputation.
Broadstairs is the jewel in the crown of the Thanet, and it's going to stop people from coming down. It really will do some damage. It's putting people off already. People are saying, we can't come back, we can't come back. And of course it's the tourists and the students alike that help bring big income to our town.
Across the district, beach fights broke out, and one local convenience store reported a spike in shoplifting, having to shut early over the weekend, losing thousands of pounds in trade.
As a business, I can say we nearly, if it's until 9 o'clock we keep open on Saturday, we're gonna do more than what we done. So it's nearly £4,000 business we lost on Saturday.
As the new week began, the parish council started assessing the impact on local businesses.
We can't accept this. What we do about it, I don't know. But we're going to get round the table and we're going to do our best. We owe it to the residents of Broadstairs, the ratepayers of Broadstairs, and most of all we owe it to the visitors that come here and support our local businesses.
Kent Police say they're still investigating, but so far they've arrested 5 people and charged 1 teen. Officers remain highly visible in the area.
We want you to take responsibility for the actions of your children. Do you know where they are? Do you know what they're doing? And if you've seen them online, what are you doing about it? Because we need to work together to solve this.
I've been speaking to some businesses today and many say they would like to see more police officers on the streets of Broadstairs. What would you say to that?
What we have done in response to this is we've uplifted our officers and we've added additional resources, and we will continue to add those additional resources and bring in whatever we need to do to improve the situation.
With teenagers finishing their GCSEs and A-levels, Broadstairs is bracing for more disruption, but authorities insist they'll crack down, determined to restore the town's picture postcard image. Gabriel Morris for KMTV in Broadstairs.
Next, through music and community, Medway came together in honour of Windrush Day. the Medway African and Caribbean Association, along with Medway Council, held events to remember the generation who came to Britain to rebuild after World War II. Our reporter, Kai Wei, went to find out more about what the importance of Windrush Day is to the Medway towns.
Windrush Day was celebrated on the 22nd of June. It commemorates everyone from the Windrush generation who came over to Britain just after World War II.
There was a ship called the Windrush that people came over on, but it's also important to recognise that there have been many people from Africa and the Caribbean that have been here for like decades and centuries, way before the Windrush arrival. I feel a great sense of pride, particularly I'm second generation Windrush. My parents came over in the sort of early 50s. You know, like many of that generation, they answered the call.
Founded around the late 80s, MACA started as a small community of people supporting each other until they found a temporary home in the Sunlight Centre, where they stand today.
Well, when I first came to Medway many years ago, there was not such a big African Caribbean community, but it has built up from people who have come from all different areas in England. Celebrating Windrush for us in MACA, it recognises what not just us but our parents and our parents' parents who have been here, the contribution that they have made to Medway.
Here in Medway we've got a fantastic organisation in the Medway African and Caribbean Association, known as MACA, and they are great champions for that community, and particularly Dr. Carol Stewart does a phenomenal job working hard, working with partners like ourselves, the police and others, to really raise the profile, raise the voices and make sure those individuals are heard.
MACA, also known as the Medway African and Caribbean Association, raised a flag this morning right outside of the Medway Council building, and here at the Community Hub this afternoon a special talk is happening to commemorate those from the Windrush generation and the impact that they've had on Britain.
What we're doing is we're chronicling and we're telling the history and stories of some of the families of the Windrush that came into England back in the 1950s and 60s. We're concentrating on many family members, but my family's involved in that as jazz musicians and calypsonians. We need to remember the history, and we need to remember the journey. Many of them were told stories of picking money from trees and money off the ground and all these kinds of things, and it was very exciting for them. So it's important for us to pass these stories on for our children and children's children.
As MACA continues to grow in numbers, and as time passes all too quickly, the importance of remembering the past and the rich history of our nation shines through on days like this. Kai Wei for KMTV in Chatham.
And joining us down the line is David Lawrence, the star of Sunday's Windrush Talk, would you say? Yes? Yes, absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit... Hello. Tell us a little bit more about the talks and how the community came together.
Well, the talks are really a part of the history of our family members and our friends that came into England back in those days. And these are stories that the public never had any opportunity to learn about. They didn't know what went on behind closed doors. They just saw these people coming from the Caribbean and joined the British Society and just got on with the work. But there was a lot that went on behind the scenes, and we tell a little bit of that history through our exhibition and through the projects that we're doing. It's very, very important for us to remember the fantastic work and foundations that these elders built. My family in particular were jazz musicians. They came in from the island of Antigua, and they joined British Society and did various jobs. But, in the evenings, they played out in the public. They played rock and roll, rhythm and blues. We're talking about the 1950s and 1960s. And so, to my dad, who's a jazz trumpeter, he'd come home and he'd tell my mother, oh, we just did a little job for this group and that group of people. But when we did the research, we looked into it, names like Manfred Mann and Dave Clark 5, and the London Palladium. These are names that came up where my father and his brothers, they actually played and joined the orchestra there and played. And so we inherited the photographs, we got all of the information, and so we're celebrating those triumphs. And that's what the Windrush celebration is about. My family stories, and others.
Yeah, and it's always about sharing a piece of you to then pass on to future generations too. Can you tell us about the Windrush generation's influence on music and culture as a whole in Britain?
Wow, I don't know how much time you have, but it is phenomenal. You're talking about the influence within popular music culture from rhythm and blues, rock, right away through to modern music today. You're talking about the influence within mod culture, the skinhead culture. You're talking about even the rock and roll Teddy Boys from the 60s, going right away through to the early Britpop, Brit soul, reggae.
I'm so sorry, David. You're right, we don't have enough time to talk about this, but it's so rich and beautiful, and thank you so much for talking about it. We'll see everyone after this break.
Become a Kent Online subscriber for unlimited access to award-winning journalism from across the county. Browse the premium version of our website with no intrusive ads for uninterrupted scrolling on your desktop, mobile or tablet. Enjoy unrivaled coverage of news, sport and leisure in Kent, including content exclusive to subscribers. Read fascinating features in our in-depth section and head down memory lane by delving into our decades archive. Keep up to date with politics in Kent and Westminster and the latest on and off the field with our extensive sports coverage, including specialist Gills reporting. Enjoy weekly digital editions of all KM titles and swipe for the same page-turning experience as the newspaper. Download, share and print out the pages you want and tackle fun puzzles such as crosswords and Sudoku. Plus, unlock our extensive archive of past papers stretching back more than 10 years. Becoming a subscriber is easy. Visit kentonline.co.uk and click the subscribe tab at the top right of the screen. Choose the package that suits you with options to pay monthly or annually. Once you've signed up, check your email for a thank you message from us and details on how to get the most out of our subscription. Kent Online, news you can trust.
Hospital visits will be dramatically reduced.
And there's something about time in Imagining Autism, I call it a nowhere.
I completely adapted to being a hidden away rural homeless person. The system can't and doesn't cope with rural homelessness at all.
And I think that's a big barrier to young disabled people in terms of their aspirations and accessing science.
I think the Equiparakeet is a great symbol for what we should be doing on Mauritius, what we can do elsewhere in the world.
This is like a picture of me and my cousins when we was in Albania back to my nan's house.
Mirë, vëmë të keme me menu me menjen tonë edhe me pa momentin e dur që kur me ik edhe policisë.
The Kent Politics Show, live on KMTV. Join us every week with an array of guests.
I think the boundary changes have changed a great deal in Kent.
The Conservative administration have delivered the lowest council tax in Kent. We will continue to do that.
Discussing the things that matter most to you.
People do feel like they've been ignored by this government.
We do need something else to supplement wind and solar.
Catch the Kent Politics Show, only on KMTV.
Now, as temperatures continue to stay hot this week, people will continue to flock to Kent's coastline, and lifeguards and locals are urging everyone to enjoy the seaside safely safely and respectfully. And from sunburn to strong currents and even sharp litter hidden in the sand, there are risks to be aware of. And over the weekend, videos have also surfaced of beachgoers leaving litter on the sand. Gabriel Morris is here with me to talk about this more. So you are talking a lot about Kent's coastlines today, aren't you? So with the warm weather drawing more people to the coast, what are the key things that we should be doing to stay safe?
Well, you saw from my report at the top of the programme that lots of people did visit the coast this week, particularly in Thanet. You got Margate, Broadstairs, Botany Bay, lots of fantastic beaches to go down. Of course, we did see some antisocial behaviour, as we addressed in my report there. But there are risks if you're going to go there safely, regardless of the beach. Lots of our beaches are patrolled by the RNLI, and you can check out some RNLI beaches. They're usually the safer ones if you're going to go into the sea, particularly if you're going to do things like paddleboarding or maybe even surfing if the weather's good enough on some of those beaches. Always swim between the red and yellow flags. That is because that's where the lifeguards are watching. And also check the tide times before heading out to avoid getting cut off if you're not on one of those lifeguarded beaches. Some of our coastlines have got rapid tides, and actually, although it might seem far out, if you walk further down the beach, the tide might come in quicker in some areas than the other. Stay off slippery rocks, piers or seawalls. I've been victim of this before whilst filming in Whitstable, walking down a pier and went flying. So don't do what I did. Don't walk on concrete. It is slippery and it isn't safe, and it could crack your head if you're not careful. Never jump into the water if you don't know how deep it is. Generally advice, just don't jump into the water off a pier or off an embankment, a seawall. In general, you just don't know what's underneath it. Even if it looks deep, there could be a rock or some sort of wreckage underneath there which you're not know about. And of course, top tip, if you ever see someone in trouble, call 999, and through that you can actually ask for the Coast Guard. Don't jump in yourself. You don't want to put yourself at risk.
Yes, and litter is often left behind on busy beaches, as we've seen. So how can we protect our coastline from that?
Yeah, no, of course. It wasn't just antisocial behaviour, fights, windows being smashed and shoplifting. A lot of litter was left behind on many of our beaches this weekend. Let's just take a quick look at this video.
Yes,
this is from Margate Beach from Saturday evening. In the video there, you can see litter pickers having to pick up after people's waste. It's not a nice thing to do. Yes, many of our beaches do have litter pickers, but it is not their responsibility to be doing this. It keeps the beaches clean, but there can be issues, such as beach wildlife, seagulls, in getting caught up in that. It's not something we want to see, so do take your litter home. There are bins scattered around, and if they are full, take it home with you, find another bin. Just don't leave it on the side. It creates a mess. It doesn't make our coastlines that nice. And we want Kent, for people coming in for the weekend, to think it's a lovely place, and it is, but litter takes it away from that. Other tips you could do is avoid single-waste plastic. Food waste can harm maritime life. But if you want to do good, sign up to a litter picking group. Lots of social things you can do there, many, as I said, across the county.
Thank you very much, Gabriel, and hopefully we can band together to have a nice wholesome trip to the seaside at some point. But speaking of warm weather, let's look at the weather. There's clear skies this evening with temperatures hitting 15 degrees in Canterbury and 16 in Margate, wind speeds of 9 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, cloudy skies with temperatures at 18 degrees in Maidstone and Dartford, winds picking up to 13 miles per hour. And in the evening, skies still cloudy, but temperatures reaching 23 in Maidstone and Medway, with lows of 21 in Dover for the rest of the week, starting at 28 degrees and dropping to 25 degrees, a cloudy rest of the week. Now, a Canada goose has had to be euthanised after a suspected catapult attack in Maidstone. This comes during a storm of attacks on wildlife in the county, sparking outrage in residents and conservationists. Due to this, the Mallee Dams education team are working with angling shops to display posters about the legal consequences of using catapults as a weapon. Some shops have now stopped selling the device to anyone under the age of 18. The team are also offering school assemblies across the southeast to raise awareness of the issue and encourage positive attitudes towards animals. Finn McDermott recently reported on this rising trend. Take a look.
It's a social media trend that has shocked and disturbed many animal lovers across the county. This incident is too distressing to show on film. From 2023 to March this year, 345 catapult attacks have been reported to police. Although figures show a decline in cases, campaigners say it's still 345 too many.
Children also go to blue water, so I'm called there often with swans that have been catapulted, geese, you know, so I'm often patrolling. It's a weekly occurrence, you know, and there's no end in sight. So, you know, as a community, we've come together and we're standing up and we're talking out now, you know, to call for a ban to catapults. And please, you know, we need to hold the children accountable for what they're doing.
But for those who catapult for sport, a total ban just wouldn't work.
It can't be done. Every tree with a fork, every physiotherapy. There are 65,000 members of the Professional Association of Physiotherapy. They all use rubber bands, as do postmen. There's something in your magazine about how to make catapults out of sticks and rubber bands that you find in an office. It's a genie you're not putting back in the bottle. What we need to do is catch the people who are misbehaving with them. There's a term called a sitting duck for anything that literally is too stupid to get out of the way. This is not sport, this is not clever, this is not intelligent, this is just murderous cretinism. There is overall lots more good than bad to be had. And our side of it as a community is to be vocal in condemning it. Go to a club. If you want to show how clever you are, go to a club. Go and see if you can win a trophy and be better at it than the other guys. Every single one of us, whether it's proper hunters or especially just target shooters, wants these kids caught.
With many sides of the debate ongoing, questions turn to the police and what's being done to stop animals being killed.
These devices can cause quite significant damage to people, to wildlife and to property. So I've lobbied the government to change the law to make it illegal to carry these in public and give the police more powers to stop and search people for them. Kent Police will respond and investigate, and they will target those areas where they're seeing them happen the most. But we desperately need more people to report them so that we can deal with this blight on our community.
With this wave of killing for sport in some cases, it is a waiting game to see if the trend will end and if it can continue to be a harmless sport for enthusiasts.
But it's not all bad. There are actually some positive things happening with wildlife at the moment too, thankfully to hear. An increase in the white-tailed eagles in the country, along with other animals. Kristen Hawthorne joins me now to talk a little bit about this quite magnificent-looking creature. Do you think we'll see something, Kent?
Well, so this is part of a conservation effort. So this is the white-tailed eagle, and it is currently on the red list for the UK, which means that it's very much in danger of being extinct. It did used to be entirely extinct, but now due to this, they released, I believe, 19 of them in the Isle of Wight in 2019. And since then, there's been a few sightings of the eagle in Kent. This is due to just them passing. Apparently, they've been going to France as well. I was speaking to I've forgotten now. Well, so they've been flying across, and what the conservationists hope now is that they're going to start breeding in Kent, which would mean that we'd have our own species of the eagle.
That'd be great to see.
Yes, certainly. So the last one that was spotted here was in March, but it has been flying all across Kent. We've seen this due to different maps that the Roy Dennis Foundation has provided. Roy Dennis, that's who I was speaking to earlier. But yes, so if you're looking out for them and you want to spot them and let people know that you've seen it, something very interesting, they have a wingspan of up to 2.5 metres. Now, if you don't know that, that's over 8 foot.
I was about to say, I'm not that tall.
It's certainly...
Not that I'm that tall.
And they have a yellow beak, golden eyes, yellow legs. So yeah, if you see them, make sure to log it and let people know.
And you can find the map and then add to it, basically.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what else has been seen around? I feel like this weekend there's been quite a lot of animals. Maybe it's the rising heat, maybe it's the lovely weather. A few people maybe seeing a few aquatic creatures around?
Well, I was out on the River Medway on Saturday, and I seen some dolphins. There was also seals. I might have seen one of these birds, but I think it was a bit too far away for me to be 100% certain. But we did see a dolphin. We have a little, yes, here it is now. Now this is a video that Vince Maple took from
Councillor
KCC.
Vince Maple, leader of Medway Council.
Yes. This was at the boat. Now, dolphins, for a while, they weren't seen very regularly, but due to more conservation efforts in the river, removing pollution, they've now been spotted again, and that is along with the seals as well.
To see dolphins.
Yes.
And seals. I need to live maybe closer. Well, you don't even need to live closer to the coast, because you just need a body of water, River Medway. And that's so exciting. What else can we see here in Kent?
Yes, so we should have some other pictures of things that were spotted over the weekend. So, yes, where do you think this was? Can you
Where
guess?
do I think that was?
This is a snake.
Spotting a snake. Where in Kent would I see a snake?
No, it's not an alive snake, I have to give you that. But either way.
It's not a live snake. You could have fooled me. Although, maybe that's embarrassing to say. Should we say Gravesend? Because, you know, I live near Gravesend.
This was in Ashford.
Ashford, oh.
Yeah, this was, somebody was cutting the grass. They found this in their garden. So there is lots of different, we've dolphins, snakes.
Wow. Well, I must say, I've been seeing a lot of bees, and that makes me feel very thankful. Oh, and this we can see.
Where was this? Where was this?
I'm not sure, but that's it for the end of the programme. We'll leave you in suspense. Thank you for watching Kent Tonight.